We've talked about the idea of mitosis, and you guys know that one of the important steps before you can do mitosis is that the cell has to copy all of its DNA. And now we've talked about DNA replication as well. If you need a review on DNA replication, there are some other videos on this channel covering that topic. Now, mitosis is all some organisms require in order to reproduce. I mean, your skin cells reproduce by mitosis, but sometimes entire organisms can reproduce by mitosis as well. When this occurs, we refer to it as asexual reproduction. Asexual meaning non-sexual, means you don't need two different parents in order to have a new organism, in order to have new offspring here. Asexual reproduction can be accomplished just with mitosis, that form of cell division where you start with a diploid parent cell and you end up with two diploid daughter cells at the end. Bacteria reproduce asexually as well. They don't exactly do mitosis, but they do a similar sort of process which we refer to as binary fission. They only have one large circular chromosome to duplicate before they can actually split in half. They don't have to do so much work with sorting out the various chromosomes or breaking chromatids in half or any of that kind of stuff. As an example of an organism that can reproduce asexually, I have these African violets here on the slide. These African violets, well, the flowers are a sexually reproducing organ, right? Pollen is how plants have new offspring, but many plants can also reproduce vegetatively. Vegetative reproduction is asexual and it's accomplished by mitosis. How do you get a plant to reproduce vegetatively? All you gotta do is cut little bits of the plant off and then plant those cuttings into the soil. So just a little bit of stem. And then all of the cells on the stem that are in the ground, they're going to undergo mitosis and they're going to divide. And as they divide, they're going to differentiate into new root cells. So it's going to grow roots. And then the rest of the stem is going to continue branching off and it'll develop flowers and it will make a completely new organism. But since you just cut off one piece of a larger plant, that plant is still alive and we've created a duplicate plant, a clone of that original plant, all through mitosis. So that's one form of asexual reproduction. Another form of asexual reproduction is called parthenogenesis, and this is accomplished by many different organisms, but we were somewhat startled to learn a little while back that Kimono dragons are able to do this. So we wanted to get some Kimono dragons to breed. It was a breeding program. We wanted to increase their numbers. So we had a male Kimono dragon at one zoo. We had a female Kimono dragon at another zoo. We said, hey, we got to get these crazy kids together and see if we can make some little Kimono dragons. And they shipped the female to the other zoo so that she could maybe have a chance to strike a love connection with the male that was at that zoo. And it only took a couple of days and she got pregnant. Really, really efficient and very, very surprising because they actually hadn't introduced her to the male Kimono dragon yet. So somehow she's become pregnant without ever having interacted with a male. It's immaculate conception for a lizard. So what's going on here? It turns out that Kimono dragons can reproduce through parthenogenesis. They can take an undifferentiated egg cell, what would have become one of the eggs, the gametes for sexual reproduction, and they can take that and allow it to develop into a complete organism. So the mother is the only genetic donor to that new Kimono dragon that's going to be born, and that therefore she is going to be a clone of her mother. So this is another form of asexual reproduction. There's a kind of freshwater organism called a Rotifer that many of them reproduce this way through parthenogenesis. There are even subspecies for which we have never seen the males. It seems like there's only females of that particular group. So this is another common method of asexual reproduction. Other areas where this could occur, here we have a strawberry plant, and what strawberry plants do is they send out little runners, which we call stolons. Stolons are modified portions of the stem that run out across the ground, and then when they get far enough away from the parent plant, the original plant, they stick roots down into the ground and you start getting a new strawberry plant. But it's all done through mitosis, so that new strawberry plant you get is a clone of the original. Spider plants also do this. They reproduce via stolons. They have a method of asexual reproduction. Some animals can do this as well. So starfish is a good example. Starfish, it seems a little bit odd because they always seem to be sitting still when you look at them, but starfish are actually predators. They will prey on mussels under the sea. And so if you're a mussel fisherman, they're kind of annoying, these starfish. You hate these starfish. They're eating they're eating into your bank account there. They're destroying your catch. So when mussel fishermen would bring up starfish, sometimes they would take their fishing knife and they'd cut the starfish and, hey, gah, you're a starfish, and they toss the parts back into the ocean. The problem with that was that if you cut an arm off of a starfish, the starfish will regrow the arm. But the arm will regrow a starfish. So they ended up doubling the number of starfish that were out there in the ocean, and it really put a lot of damage on their mussel catches. One of the many times that a fishing industry should have listened to some biologists before they did something. Now, asexual reproduction has advantages. If you are a sparsely distributed organism, that means you're not likely to run into another member of your species anytime soon, then asexual reproduction is probably your best chance of passing your genes on to the next generation. You're not going to find a mate anytime soon, so you better learn how to reproduce asexually. And if you are very, very well suited to your environment, asexual reproduction is a good choice for you. The main advantage of sexual reproduction is variation. You get lots and lots of different kinds of offspring. And if you're in an environment where conditions could change, say the climate changes or sea level rises, or it gets very, very cold, or a new predator comes in that you weren't expecting, or a new pathogen arrives that you weren't expecting, you want a lot of variation in your population, so that statistically, at least a couple of them might have the traits required to survive that change. However, if you live in an environment that is stable, extremely stable and predictable, then asexual reproduction will do you just fine. If you're already perfectly suited to your environment, why change a winning formula? I like to use the example of tapeworms for this, because tapeworms, if you think about it, very sparsely distributed. They live inside your small intestine, they grow and grow and grow. Unlikely that they're going to run into another tapeworm some point during their lives. I mean, depending on how gross your diet is, but pretty unlikely. And your body is an extremely stable environment as well. It's kept at a constant temperature. There's a constant stream of nutrients coming in that they're eating a little part of, so they are very, very well adapted to that environment. Tapeworms can reproduce sexually and asexually as needs require. So they can break off a little part of themselves, and then those two pieces each can become its own tapeworm.